Okay. Hello everybody. Or moreover, yeah, everybody. Uh, Today I'm gonna be interviewing my personal top. I know how I say that. My personal friend and a really good artist, Emmett Oren, right there. Say hi. Okay.
Hi.
Um.
You're pointing the wrong way, but it's whatever.
Oh. Oh. Wait. No. 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 Cause my. Oh. Okay. It's whatever. Um.
Oh, wait. So if I point it this way, it's gonna look like I'm pointing the wrong way too, right?
No, no, yeah. Yeah, I think we both have our
Okay.
cameras reversed. So I'll just go like
It's
that.
fine.
Okay.
We'll roll with it.
Yep. It'll be fine. Okay. So, our friend here has came out with an album that he told me was gonna come out, or told not just me, but everybody that was gonna come out November 9th, but he surprised us all and released it on Halloween. So we just have a few questions here based on like how he made the album, what his emotions were, why he made the album, why, like, the title Our Listening Moon, why it's Our Listening Moon, stuff like that. So let's go ahead and start off. What kind of inspired you to create this album? How did like the idea, come to you?
Yeah, I think the whole idea of this album came about, like the very beginnings of it came about in January of last year, which was 2024. Um, and it was kind of my way of coping with a lot of things that happened that month. I was at a really, really like deep low, like I would say like Mariana Trench level low at that point. And it was the lyrics to Come Home. I still remember I was really sad and I was like, I need to find a way to cope with this and try to figure out how to get over this giant mountain that I was at the bottom of. And I remember writing the chorus to that. And it really started helping. And then I stopped working on it for a while. And it just came about full circle when I first got my guitar and I wrote my first guitar track, which became the first track on the album, named Intro. But yeah, and then the rest of that came in like this huge like explosion of idea that came around in May or June of this year, which I'm really happy about because this album could have been delayed all the way until 2026, but it ended up not being.
Right, and I'm happy for that. Um, so how did you come up with the name? That's something I've been meaning to ask you for I think like a while now. Because Our Listening Moon, I feel like that's not, well, I don't feel like, I know that's not like something you just find. It's something that you have to go through, you have to process. So how did you come up with that name?
I wanted to like kind of lie to people a little bit and go like, "Oh, I was writing it all under the like right under the moon. I was looking up at it the whole time." But no, I'm going to be down to earth and I'm just going to say that that came about because I was working on a school project, like just like the album cover itself. That came about like I think it was like 10 o'clock at night at that point, and I was just like really tired, and I was like, I need to get something going, and that was first try. I made that, and I was like, hey, this actually looks pretty good, and I didn't know what to name it for like a couple weeks, and then I was just like, well, there's a moon in there, and people got to listen to it. It's just like a really dumb like way of coming up with it, and I think the way of saying "Our Listening Moon" really it ended up correlating to what the album talks about with my insecurities as a person and how this can be taken in a couple different ways in different ways that I'm not going to say what ways you should take it in the way that you really think it should be going about. And for using just like R is like at the beginning is just meaning like it's like a shared experience. And I think it ended up being way deeper than what I thought it was going to be in the beginning.
Got it. I feel like what you've said so far, like how it's one, how you made the album because you wanted to get over that mountain and you just put your emotions into the album. I feel like it adds a bit of humanity how you, or I don't know what to call it. But it's nice knowing that like you just came up with the idea. Like so, people out here will just straight up lie about like, oh, I came up with it because of this intricate idea, and you were just raw about it, and just came up with this one day and went, I think it fits, and I really like that. I feel like that was also evident when I first like saw the album name. I was like, or the album title. I was like, it isn't anything artificial. It's like raw. It's nice, and it sounds good too. It's not like it's a chunky name. I like it. Um, we've talked about kind of intro and come home a bit, but how about the rest of the songs? Do they convey the same, or like uh timeline wise? When did you make the other song?
I think timeline wise, so I think the first lyrics obviously were the "Come Home" chorus, which I didn't end up finishing until that like May June explosion, which is what I'll call it. And intro, that was the first guitar track, and then I really started getting on a roll. The first guitar bit for "Come Home" actually surprisingly came about around January of 2025, so it was about a year after I wrote the lyrics to it, and along with a lot of other just like really rough tracks for it, which I ended up changing a lot. I still have those on my phone, and I think it's really interesting to go back to myself, just looking at those and being like, how did I get to this point where I made something that people can really enjoy out of this really rough little bit? But I mean, onto what you were saying about like the other tracks. I think "Empty Space," the second track, that entirely came around in that May June thing. I came up with the lyrics first, which, and I thought that track. I had a track behind that which I thought was way better, but I ended up scrapping it and moving on and putting that track out instead. And I think it ended up working out really well because I think it's my best written one yet. And then the interlude track, which doesn't seem like much, I created that in a whole day. That was one day of work, and I was just like really tired, and I was like, I had this little bit that was just like in my mind a little bit, and I was like, I'll try to like work on that, and then I found this really cool tuning, and I was like, maybe this will work, and it ended up sounding actually like really neat and really unique. And then the final track, Bon Voyage, which the name of that track came about after Bon Iver's fifth album, Sable Fable, came out, which is a pretty good album in my eyes, but I thought that the way that it would perfectly have ended is instead of him putting the last track as saying au revoir, he could have put Bon Voyage, and it would have ended it perfectly. So I was like, I'm just going to use that from now on. And I used that, and yet again, it was another guitar track that came around in January. Because I think it was like the January was like all the guitar, and then the May, June area was like just kind of finishing what I had started at that point.
Now I know you just mentioned Bon Iver, but what other artists inspired you, or is it him as, or is he the only artist that personally inspired you?
I think he was a pretty central part. That he was an artist that I discovered actually in September, a little bit before I had COVID-19 during that time. I might have to bleep it out because of the way that YouTube goes about that word for some reason. Um, and it ended up just like helping me a little bit because his first album was so full of like emotion and passion and feeling through it, and I was like, I want to make something like that. And just that whole bit right there, it ended up like coming into that raw feeling that I was using that whole time. And
Right.
that whole like cabin thing, like the very end of the track, at the very end of the last track, you can hear a door close. And that was something that was in the last track of Forever Ago. And I think it just perfectly ended off the album, and it ended it in a way that I enjoyed it. But I think some other artists that had a little bit of a part in that, Noah Kahan, he was the artist that first got me into that genre of music in its entirety. And I think those two were like the main ones that I really tried to base it off of. I didn't try to go like super deep into like, so it sounded like I was just copying or ripping off an artist. I was trying to make it so that it sounded just like my own way of interpreting all of that.
Right. I feel like, as your personal friend here for a second, I feel like you mentioned these, like, for example, Bon Iver, a ton, and I feel like the impact that they have on your life. You can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I feel like they kind of like your liking of these artists pushed you to kind of, would you say it pushed you to make it and pushed you to kind of conveying those emotions in the way, in musically, conveying those emotions musically rather than dealing with them otherwise?
I wouldn't say that that was the main thing that pushed me to keep going through this, because as I've said, this was very, like, at some points mentally and physically just, like, painful to make and write, because it was a lot of my emotions being let out at once, and it became almost, like, cathartic, but not in a way where I really enjoyed it, and that's why this ended up taking a lot longer than I thought it would have. But I think the main thing that kept me going is a lot of my friends, including you. It's been just like a really long journey, and having a bunch of people around me, including like friends and family, they've all pushed me to keep going. And like, they knew that it was like almost like they knew in the end that it was going to end up being a really good product and a really good project to just kick off a career. And I don't know if this will continue to be a career, but I think it would be really fun to keep going with that.
Uh, okay. So we've talked about kind of you mentioned this earlier. You started this album or making it when you were trying to get uh past this mountain in your life. Would you say that now the album is out, now the album's out there, your emotions are out there, is that you're past that mountain, or would you say you're still hiking over it?
I think the funny thing is that I really got over that mountain before it ended, and I thought it was just a really nice way to end that chapter of my life and moving onwards towards a new chapter, which I think is a lot more exciting in my eyes. And I just don't. It's a little bit hard to explain, but yeah, that was kind of how I was feeling at the time. I feel a lot better about it now, and I'm really glad for that.
Now, I know that this might be a little too soon to ask this question, but when you make more albums, right? I'm not saying if, because, you know, you're
If
musically talented and you have that passion. When you do it, how will you see this album? Will you see it as a stepping stone to the rest of your career, or will you see it as the album that set you out there, the album that was or is the most meaningful to you?
I think in the end that I think Our Listening Moon will go down, and I'm gonna say this: it's not gonna be a when, it's gonna be an if, because it's all gonna depend on if I really want to keep this going. Because as I've said, I think it's really fun, but there might be points where I just don't feel like I want to do this anymore. And I'm happy that there are some people who will respect that decision, and I know there are going to be quite a lot more. But I think if that album does come out, I don't think it's going to be a meaningful thing. I don't think it's going to be necessarily deep. It's going to be me trying to grow on what I've already done. And it might also end up being me trying to like find myself and trying to find just like what type of musical artist I am. Because I feel comfortable in what I've been creating, but I think it would be nice to know that I can be more versatile and I can go into a lot more like different and varying genres.
Got it. Knowing the process now of how to kind of get music out there, um, and do everything music related, what piece of advice would you give to anybody really who is just experimenting with, maybe they're just experimenting with playing a guitar, right? Maybe they're playing a piano. I don't know. What advice would you give to them?
Well, I mean, first off, if you're going to be playing something like that, I think first off you need to let yourself grow and become a more like mature person if you are someone of like my age or somebody a little bit younger than me. I think first off you just need to grow your skills and become good at it. And in the end, it might not always end up with you trying to be a musician, but I think if you want to be a musician, you should totally go for it. It doesn't matter what you're making. In the end, it's going to be something, it has to be something that you're proud of. If you aren't proud of what you've made, I would consider that to be a failure. Because I think in the end, you need to make something that you're happy to put out. You don't want it to end up being like labor or a kind of job. You need to see it as a hobby, as more entertainment to yourself, which it did end up becoming for me. And when it does end up turning into more of a job or like a lifestyle, which you really don't want to be in, it's really nice to take those breaks, and you should be able to take as long as you need.
Right. How do you feel about what was your favorite part of making the music, putting the music out there? Like, did you like teasing the music? Did you like actually like being in there making the music? What was your favorite part?
I think my favorite part was once I was fully done and I finished everything and I listened to it for the first time. I don't think I'm going to forget that moment because I listened to it and I listened to myself sing and I was like, oh my god, I sound like I am dying inside. And it ended up being a lot different for me, but I think that ended up being my favorite part, just listening to the finished product. And it's really fun in my eyes. I love doing rollouts. That whole rollout, I had a whole plan for it, and I planned for that to come out early. That wasn't something that I decided a while back. I decided that before the album was even submitted, that it was going to come out early and it was going to come out on Halloween, because you relate the dark and like the moon and the stars and all that. You kind of relate that to Halloween a lot, and I thought that it would be a lot better than putting it in the middle of November. And yeah, that was really my favorite part of doing that.
Got it. Yeah. So one last question here. I know we've gone over like how you make this music, like why you made it. That's our first question here. But really, what does music as a whole mean to you? Like you said it at the beginning. Again, I'm referencing this again. Um, that you poured your emotions into it. But how does it kind of make you feel? Does it limit you? Do you feel like it's an extension of your thoughts, or do you feel like it's art that you make in, you know, as sound?
Um, I think that music for everybody, whether that be listening, creating, producing, helping with anything, it's always going to be an extension of you. Whatever you listen to, that's going to be something where people will listen and where people will see and they'll be like, that sounds like that person's personality most of the time. However, you do have those like middle-aged like white girls who are listening to death metal out there, and they just seem like people who would listen to like Taylor Swift or like Conan Gray or something like that. And I think it's also kind of cool because it just ends up you always want it to be an extension of yourself. It always needs to be because it needs to be a place of comfort for you. When you're feeling happy, you need to have those songs where you're going to listen to it and you're going to dance around your bedroom. No matter if you look like a chimpanzee who just discovered music for the first time or somebody who actually takes dancing classes, you need to be able to dance to music, but you also need to be able to feel emotions through music and be able to cry through music, be able to feel angry through music, be able to feel any emotion through music. And that's kind of sometimes the reason why people release music, too, is for the fact that they want people to relate to it. They want people to like just feel it. And I think that ends up being a really, really important role for music to have because music is important in almost everybody's life in many different ways. And that's why people like me, like I like to make stuff for myself, but also for others because I know that there's going to be some person out there or multiple people out there who are going to really relate to what I was making in that time and how it was made and how it feels to them.
Got it. It was nice having you here today, Emmett. I think even as your friend, separate from, doing this interview, it was nice kind of learning about your process making this, about how you made this, what inspires you, what you think about music out there at this point in time. And to any other viewers, maybe you're not like, maybe you don't know Emmett personally, but I feel like his music is one that makes you feel like you are close, like you are a friend. But yeah, thanks for, if you're watching this, thanks for watching this. Um,
Yes. We are very
Again,
grateful
this is,
that you were able to go through this and watch this.
oh yeah. Um, Again, Emmett Oren, everybody.
Wrong side
Round of
again,
applause.
man.
Oh my. Uh, ah, there. Emmett Oren. Um, yeah.
Ta-da.
Emmett, would you
Yeah.
like to real quick say where they can find your music?
I
Just
mean,
real
you
quick.
can find my stuff literally almost anywhere. I recently got back onto Apple Music and Amazon Music. And I might be coming off Spotify soon because of their horrible CEO and how they're spending more money on drones, on drone warfare than being able to pay artists. Like I get paid a fourth of a stream, and I personally think that that's really messed up. So if you can't find me on there, just know that I'm going to be on every other thing. So if you have any alternatives, I'll be there. And I think that's a good place to end it off. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But
Thanks for
yeah,
watching, everybody.
goodbye.
Again, goodbye, and subscribe to Emmett Oren Official.
Bye bye.
Bye.